From victim to victor, my true story of overcoming adversity, courage, and life transformation. I never thought my own family could hurt me so much, but that's exactly what happened. I grew up believing I could trust the people I loved most, but I learned the hard way that that wasn't always true. My sister Natalie always had a way of dominating everything around her, while I tried to stand my ground, invisible and inconspicuous. For years, my every victory seemed to bother her, and my every mistake was exploited as proof that I wasn't enough. I felt my heart tighten, a mixture of fear, frustration, and sadness building up until it suffocated me. I spent nights crying alone in my room, trying to understand why someone I grew up with could hurt me this way, and every tear seemed to scream that I needed to learn to protect myself, to value myself before it was too late. My name is Olivia, I'm 34 years old, and this story became unbearable about 5 years ago. I was trying to rebuild my life after ending a long-term relationship, and my sister began interfering in everything. Friends, colleagues, even my small achievements. I felt constantly watched, judged, and compared. I lived in constant tension, anxious not to make a mistake, but it seemed like any misstep would be used against me. My self-esteem was shattered, and I began to doubt myself. It was as if a dark cloud had settled over my life, and I couldn't see a way out. One day, something happened that changed everything. Natalie began financially involved with a man who seemed charming and trustworthy. As the older sister, I wanted to protect her, but I realized she wasn't listening. I saw my sister being deceived by someone with dubious intentions, and I felt a tightness in my chest as if my own life were in danger. It was desperate to see someone I loved lost in a cycle of manipulation and lies, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. Every call and message I received about her situation left me, feeling more anxious and helpless. For months, I tried to stay strong, but my own mental health began to suffer. I suffered from insomnia, anxiety attacks, feelings of despair and loneliness. I wondered if I was weak for feeling this way, if it was normal to suffer so much from family problems. Every childhood memory, every unfair comparison Natalie made, came flooding back like a wave of emotional pain I couldn't contain. I needed help. I needed a path to recovery because I was drowning in suffering. It was at that moment that I decided to seek support. I scheduled my first therapy session, feeling ashamed and afraid of being judged. However, I soon realized that this was the first step in freeing myself from the burden I'd carried for years. The therapist helped me understand that I wasn't to blame for my sister's behavior, that the pain I felt didn't define me, and that it was possible to rebuild my life even after so many disappointments. For the first time, I began to feel that there was hope, and that my story didn't have to be all suffering. In the months that followed, I faced very difficult days. Anxiety continued to consume me, and I felt exhausted even when it seemed like everything was under control. There were times when I cried for no reason, others when I felt frozen, unable to act. Thoughts about how my sister treated me and how I always seemed to suffer alone haunted me day and night. It was a constant struggle between anger and sadness, and the feeling of helplessness seemed never ending. But for the first time, I was learning that I didn't have to face this alone. Therapy taught me to name my emotions, to understand that feeling pain didn't make me weak, and that I could create healthy boundaries, even with people I loved. I began writing about everything I was feeling. Journals, notes, lists of small victories, anything that helped me release the avalanche of emotions I was carrying. Writing gave me clarity, and each word I read afterwards brought a sense of relief, as if I were reorganizing my own world from within. I discovered that I could feel sadness and still choose to move forward. Little by little, I began to realize that my strength came not from controlling others, but from focusing on myself, my recovery, and allowing myself to live more lightly. At the same time, I began to reclaim small joys that I had neglected out of fear or exhaustion. I started running again in the morning, even when waking up seemed impossible. I rediscovered the joy of cooking, laughing with friends and talking to people who truly valued me. Every small action reminded me that my life didn't need to be defined by my sister's pain or actions. I still felt hurt, but I learned not to let it paralyze me. The change was slow but tangible, and each small step became fuel to keep going. There were days when I thought about giving up, about letting myself be consumed by resentment. I watched my sister thrive while I struggled to rebuild, and it was hard not to compare, not to feel envy or frustration. But in those moments, I took a deep breath and remembered that my story wasn't about competing with anyone. I needed to focus on my own growth, my own peace. I began developing strategies to deal with difficult situations without losing myself emotionally. Breathing techniques, meditation, small routines that gave me a sense of control over my mind. Little by little, these practices became allies in building my inner strength. That's when I realized I was truly changing. I began to set clear boundaries with my sister, no longer trying to control what she did, but protecting my own emotional life. I understood that love and care don't mean allowing someone to destroy your peace. Every conversation I avoided, every decision I made for my well-being, every moment I prioritized my mental health brought me a sense of freedom I'd never experienced before. For the first time, I felt I could choose how I reacted to difficulties, and that my happiness depended solely on my own decisions. Over time, I began to realize that my strength didn't come from trying to control everything, but from accepting what I couldn't change. I understood that the pain my sister caused me didn't have to define my entire life. Each challenge I faced showed me that I was capable of handling situations far greater than I'd imagined. There were days when I still felt sad, remembering the injustices I'd suffered, but I no longer allowed myself to wallow in bitterness. Therapy helped me see my scars not as permanent wounds, but as marks of resilience, signs that I survived and that I can still grow. I started investing more in myself. I went back to studying, gaining professional training, and pursuing hobbies I hadn't previously had time for. I realized that my self-esteem was directly linked to my achievements and how I treated myself. When I managed to complete a course or learn something new, I felt like I was rebuilding not only my knowledge, but also my confidence. Each small success was a victory over years of manipulation, fear, and the feeling of not being enough. I learned that self-care is an act of courage and self-love. I also began to reevaluate my personal relationships. Friends I'd previously neglected, coworkers, even supportive family members, I began reaching out to those who truly valued me. I learned to recognize signs of toxic people and stay away from them. This change brought me peace, and I gradually realized that my life could be full of healthy connections, without the constant shadow of betrayal or conflict. Each step reminded me that I deserved respect, attention, and care, just like anyone else. My relationship with Natalie also began to change, but slowly and healthily. There were no outbursts, no false reconciliations, just respectful distance and clear boundaries. And with that, I felt a huge weight lifted from my chest. I finally understood that I didn't need her approval to feel complete. Emotional freedom came slowly but surely. I began to realize that happiness doesn't depend on who hurt me in the past, but on the choices I make every day to take care of myself and my life. It was through this process that I discovered the true meaning of overcoming. It's not just surviving difficulties, but learning to rise stronger, more aware, and happier. I still feel pain. I still remember the wounds, but now I can use them as an impetus for growth, rather than a chain that binds me. The feeling of autonomy, of being able to decide my own life without fear or guilt, is invaluable. Today, I know I can face any challenge because I've learned to trust my own strength and my ability to rebuild my story with courage and hope. Little by little, I began to notice concrete changes in my life. My work flourished, not because I wanted to prove anything to anyone, but because I now truly felt capable. I took on projects I'd previously avoided, challenged myself to step outside my comfort zone, and face situations that would have previously made me anxious. Each professional achievement became a reminder that I had the strength, intelligence, and resilience to forge my own path. The feeling of financial and emotional independence brought me genuine pride, and I felt like I was finally living for myself, without relying on anyone else's approval or control. At the same time, I invested in healthy relationships. I reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and learned to cultivate sincere connections based on respect and mutual support. Before, I closed myself off to avoid disappointment, but now I've realized that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage. Learning to trust again in people who deserve my affection was a slow but extremely rewarding process. Every shared smile, every piece of advice received, every spontaneous laugh reminded me that life can be light, even after years of emotional pain. My relationship with Natalie has changed quietly but significantly. We maintain sporadic contact without demands or drama. It's not a perfect friendship, but one of respect and clear boundaries. The pain we felt together hasn't disappeared, but we're now able to live together without hurting each other. This balance has brought me peace, showing me that overcoming doesn't mean forgetting or erasing, but rather learning to live consciously, without allowing the past to control our present choices. More than anything, I learned to value my own story. Every tear, every night of anguish, and every fear overcome became fuel for growth. I discovered that true overcoming comes from within. It's the courage to face your pain, acknowledge your weaknesses, and still choose to move forward. Today, I know I can handle any challenge life throws at me because I've already survived one of the greatest emotional tests of my life and emerged stronger. The feeling of freedom is indescribable. I can smile without guilt, live without constant fear, and even allow myself to dream again. My life isn't perfect. There are still difficult days, but every obstacle is now just another opportunity to show myself that I am resilient. I'm proud of who I've become. A woman who suffered, fell, cried, but found the strength to get back up, reinvent herself, and build a real life. Today I can say with conviction, overcoming adversity is possible, and every step toward your own freedom is a victory that no one can take away. Today, when I look back, I see every moment of pain as part of a necessary journey. Those years of feeling small, insecure, and undervalued taught me lessons no one else could have given me. I learned to identify my own strength, to acknowledge my needs, and to value my achievements, no matter how small they seem. Every tear I shed was not in vain. Every night of fear made me more resilient. Life has shown me that no matter who tries to tear us down or devalue us, what truly matters is our ability to get back up and keep moving toward what makes us feel good. Today, I feel proud of myself. Not because everything is perfect, but because I've learned to prioritize myself. I've learned to set healthy boundaries, take care of myself emotionally, and choose to be with people who lift me up, rather than drag me down. The joy I feel now doesn't depend on anyone's approval. It stems from the respect I've earned for myself. Each challenge I've overcome has become a reminder that I can face any obstacle, even when everything seems impossible. My relationship with my sister has transformed, not into a perfect friendship, but into a respectful and mature coexistence. I've learned that overcoming doesn't mean forgetting or erasing what happened. It means learning to live with it without letting it control my happiness. Every small gesture of peace between us is a silent victory, a reminder that life can be light even after years of suffering. The greatest lesson I learned from this experience is that overcoming adversity begins within. We can't change the past, nor can we control the actions of those who hurt us, but we can choose how we react, how we grow, and how we love ourselves. True strength lies in continuing, even when everything inside us wants to give up. Today, I know I can face any adversity because I've already overcome my own deepest pain. If you're going through difficult times, remember, overcoming them is possible. It's not about erasing the pain, but about learning to walk with it, transforming each obstacle into an opportunity for growth. I am living proof that, even after suffering, being betrayed, or feeling alone, it's possible to get back up, rebuild your life, and find true happiness. Today, I look forward with hope, courage, and pride in who I've become. And I know that life can still surprise me with achievements, joys, and moments of peace I never imagined would be mine. Today, I wake up every day feeling like I can choose my path. I'm no longer held hostage by past wounds or the insecurity that consumed me. Every challenge I've faced has prepared me to recognize my worth and the strength I never imagined I possessed. I've learned to celebrate my small daily victories, like emerging from a difficult situation with composure, making decisions with confidence, or simply smiling without guilt. These small achievements have become pillars that support my self-esteem and my joy in life. I also learned to reconnect with my dreams, those that were kept in a forgotten corner of my mind. Today, I allow myself to dream big, plan projects, invest in myself, and pursue goals that once seemed impossible. Each step toward these goals is proof that overcoming is not just about surviving, but about flourishing, even after the strongest storms. I discovered that when we believe in ourselves, the impossible becomes just another step on our journey. I feel like I've finally built a life based on conscious choices, genuine joy, and self-love. The people I surround myself with now are chosen, because surrounding myself with positive energy is part of my protection and my happiness. I no longer compare myself to anyone. I no longer let other people's opinions dictate my worth. I am responsible for my peace, my success, and my happiness. And by recognizing this, I realize that each obstacle I've overcome has brought me here stronger, more resilient, and more confident in my own potential. And that's why today I can look to the future with hope and enthusiasm. I know that life can still surprise me with achievements, joys, and moments of peace that I never imagined would be mine. Each day is a new opportunity to grow, learn, and become the best version of myself. The pain I experienced no longer defines me. It simply showed me how capable I am of resisting, rising up, and rebuilding my story with courage, self-love, and faith in my own strength. I am proof that it is possible to be reborn, even after feeling like all is lost.